Ta-da. Okay, now we're still here. We're still live on cjmarsradio.com, but we have dropped Revolution Radio. And, okay, good. So hopefully some people call in with some questions and stuff like that. Hey, but tell us, man, why did the cops come raid your place? You don't get along with the cops over there?
Gosh, where should I start with the, my trouble with the cops, I never had any trouble with the police at all. My trouble with the cops started with the HaLeigh Cummings, Caylee Anthony stuff. It's all connected to that. The people from Florida reached up here and started, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not a criminal at all. They were trying to shut down my publication, and these people got reach, man. They started messing with me, and then it turned out that as time went by, it's coming out now. It just came out within the last few months that these local officials up here were involved in stealing. Like $500,000 was missing from this bank fraud thing that they were doing, and I was investigating it. And I think they wanted my hard drive. They wanted to see what I had. And they came in, bulletproof vests, everything. They took all my journalism equipment. They were just terrorized. They were trying to terrorize me. They're trying to terrorize my daughter. They took all my equipment. They took it to some undisclosed location because they didn't keep a chain of evidence for them. Yeah. They can't tell me where it was at. And they didn't keep a record of examination, so they can't say what they did with it. But they did. The deputy did testify in court that he did search it with right check, and he didn't find any sign of illegal activity on it. But when they gave it back, it didn't work. They ruined it, So I can recover what's on it, but it's going to cost me like $2,000. So that's a legal issue between me and the city.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, and it all started in 2009 when people from Florida began calling the East Grand Forks Police Department and trying to get them to arrest me. I mean, it's all right in the police reports,
Well, what were they trying to get you arrested for?
Well, first they started making nuisance complaints, claiming that it's because I had done these interviews regarding the missing child. And I found out way too much, way too fast about HaLeigh. And they started doing a bunch of stuff. They started having child protection complaints made against me. These people play as dirty as you can possibly imagine. They were trying to have my child taken away from me. They were threatening me. I was having my life threatened. This is bad stuff. And they filled the internet up with just web pages full of well, for instance, remember when I told you that when Cobra went out and he arrested Daniel Snodgrass?
Yeah.
He revoked that guy's bond and slammed him on the ground, and then he had Art Harris, a tabloid journalist, film it, and then they put it on the web. That same tabloid journalist was calling the East Grand Forks Police Department and trying to get them to arrest me. I've got all the emails that he sent to Lieutenant Rodney Hightack at the East Grand Forks Police Department, and he's just like, telling him how he's with CNN and that I'm dangerous. He's telling him that I'm dangerous, that Tim Holmseth is dangerous, and he has a gun and all that. I'm threatening people. He's making stuff up about me. And then,
that's interesting because it seems like everyone, CNN and Court TV and Fox, they all had like a narrative. They had a storyboard. Oh.
A narrative and a storyboard?
Yeah, I'm getting a little loop here. Is everybody else getting that? No, we're good? Yeah, like yeah, it's like okay. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. I'm hearing myself on CJ Mars Radio. Let me get that out of there. I can't go in the chat room. Okay, sorry guys. Sorry, I'm screwing up here. I'm out of there. Okay. Yeah, but what I was saying, Timothy, was that it seems like these HLN and Court TV and stuff like that, they take on these big cases, and they have how they want it to start, and they want a beginning and a middle and an end to it, you know. And they decide at the beginning that Caylee Anthony's guilty, you know, and they try and manipulate the case toward that end.
That's right. That's right, and there's nobody more guilty than Nancy Grace.
Forget top mom. You know, yeah, she got a lot of play off that case, man, off that poor little girl, you know, in that trunk of that car, like you said. You know, God only knows how she really died or what happened, but you know, I think people who make a living off that kind of thing should be ashamed of themselves.
I mean, I turned down. I mean, HLN contacted me when my first book came out and wanted me to come on, but I wouldn't come on.
How come?
I turned down appearances on HLN. I wouldn't come on their network because I figured they were probably going to set me up with Harris, because Harris was helping Stobbs with it, push his narrative on Snodgrass. You see, the recordings that I have recordings from the field where Stobbs was wired. So, you asked me some questions like, well, maybe he was doing this or maybe he was doing that. I have the actual recordings where he was wired. I have hours of recordings where, like, he's walking around. I can hear everything he's doing.
Right.
Like, I can hear them laughing and planning on how they're going to set Snodgrass up. They're giggling and laughing. We're going to get the Snodgrass guy, man.
Really?
It was all a plan. Yeah.
Hey, what about those searches? Remember those videos that they took? There was another PI that testified in the Caylee Anthony case that also did the same kind of thing. They did all kind of searches where they videotaped it and stuff like that. Do you have any info on that?
Yeah, I interviewed. You're talking about Dominic Casey.
Yeah.
And I interviewed. God, I can't remember his name right now, but he was working with Cobra. Dominic, the one guy, and I can't remember his name right now, but he was working with Dominic Casey, and then I interviewed him, and it was the same crap where Cobra wanted me to talk to him. It was one of Dominic Casey's guys, where him and Grund wanted me to talk to Dominic Casey's guy. I can't remember his name right now, but he's one of the guys you're talking about, where they kept showing him on Nancy Grace.
Yeah.
Digging around in the ground and stuff, that footage.
Yeah.
Looking for the body. Well, I interviewed him, and he told me that something about that they had been asked to follow Leigh Anthony to Atlanta, and they were supposed to try to get some of Leigh's DNA or something. Something like that. They were supposed to get some of Leigh's DNA, and they were going to plant it, something like that. More of that crap. And this was years later. They were still pushing this narrative. That was like 2011. They're still pushing this narrative.
You know, it seems also, too, all the stuff you described, that there were so many PIs, and so many other people and other agent provocateurs, in this situation here. And they're all talking about planting evidence and planting hairs and planting, DNA and stuff, which is just fascinating to me, because you'd think these people would be a little nervous about interfering with a murder investigation by planting evidence.
You'd think so. Ed, my low battery beeper is actually beeping on my landline phone.
Okay.
If you'd like to keep talking, I can keep talking if you call my cell phone number.
Okay, let me ask the producer, what do you guys think? Should we keep going? Yeah, why not? I'll call you on the cell phone.
Okay.
Okay, hang up. Whoop. Okay, and we're going to be hitting up our guest here, Timothy Holmseth, on his cell phone because he was a little worried about he might be running out of juice there on his landline. And he gave me his cell phone as well. So we'll hit this up in a second here. I wonder if, 1 second here, hit this button here. I want to remind everybody about Pacific West Bamboo. And Mike Gray, man, if you're out there listening, give us a call in, man. Call in with your questions from the... Yeah, when I went to bring in the caller, it put everybody on hold, so we're still having that problem.
Hello?
Hey, Timothy.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you, man? Sorry about that. It took me a couple of seconds to get you back on. And we have a caller coming in, too. I can't bring him in that way. So, what were you saying last?
Well, I think we were talking about... You were saying that, how odd it is that people were just running around planting evidence and how free they felt to do such things.
Right.
And I think it was in 2011, I got a call from Cobra and Richard Grunn, and Cobra wanted me to talk to that one private investigator who was working for Dominic Casey back then. And I can't remember his name right now, but it was the same story. He was going to tell me how he had been asked to follow Jesse Grunn to Atlanta, and they were going to try to follow him around and get his DNA evidence, try to steal some of his DNA, and they just kept pushing this evidence planting narrative. And there's this whole sense of make believe to it all. Especially when you consider, that they had charged Casey with murder and they asking for the death penalty. That's really serious,
Yeah, that's huge. People need to realize how big it is a death penalty case is. That every witness, every expert has to be qualified, and the lawyers have to be qualified. And even Jose Baez, by the way, was not death penalty qualified.
Yeah. It was like clowns, just a bunch of clowns, and this is all being allowed to happen. And like I said, even with that first judge talking to Dave Neckel, what was he thinking? This is an extremely serious case, and then when you look at the high-profile nature of it, and he would even think to talk to a freak like that. And this Neckel guy was such a weirdo that I think at one point he went into an outhouse and he filmed this Neckel guy. I think he did this. He filmed the toilet in an outhouse where Caylee Anthony peed once or something.
No, really?
Yeah, the guy's a weirdo, man. What is a judge doing talking to somebody But that was the Caylee Anthony trial.
Yeah, on the news, they didn't really describe what this guy Nichols was like,
Right. But they don't go into who he was.
Oh, boy. Okay, I'm so sorry. Every time I try and bring in a caller, it's not working, so I guess we'll just have to hold off on that. Timothy? Timothy?
Hi, Ed. Yeah.
You there?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, man. Every time I try to bring in a caller, it's knocking everybody off the air, so I apologize for that. It's my fault. But now, what do you know about her picking Jose Baez?
Very little. I don't know much about her attorney selection, really. I don't know much about that.
Yeah, because what I heard was that, when she was there, they were in the holding, she asked the other inmates, the other people waiting trial, and they all said, oh, yeah, call this guy, try him, he's a cool guy. But It was a brand new lawyer, and it certainly wasn't death penalty qualified.
I heard that too. It's like, why would she choose him? It wasn't like he had some extensive reputation. And you'd think with the high-profile nature of the situation she was in, she probably could have gotten anybody she wanted. And
even the brother Lee asked her in those jailhouse telephone calls, he says, how did you pick him? Like the family didn't even trust her lawyer. Everyone in this case had something to hide.
Yeah. There's something in listening to Richard Grunn's interviews with the detective. There was just this sense that there seemed to be a relationship between those two families that seemed like it was good, but then it began to deteriorate. And that's kind of creepy, because that's a lot of adults around a little child that died, and nobody contacted the authorities for 30 days. I mean, I can't imagine, all the parents and grandparents among us, who have had babies among us, somebody notices,
Well, now, at the time when the kid the baby went missing, Caylee went missing. Okay, was Casey still dating the grandson?
Not according. I don't think so. Not according to the official record.
Did you ever get a chance to talk to that son?
No, I never talked to Jesse Grund. But the sense that I got, Richard Grund and Cobra were always talking about. They were always saying, "Oh, they're trying to frame Jesse. They're trying to frame Jesse." But kind of roll with me here for a second, Ed.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I always had a feeling that they were using Jesse kind of as a proxy. That it really wasn't Jesse's DNA they were worried about. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Heck, I'll just say it. How about this? Let's just hypothetically. Maybe Richard Grund just didn't want to say, "I'm afraid they're going to find my DNA." Because, how about this? If Richard Grund says enough times to the police, "They're trying to frame my son Jesse, they're trying to frame my son Jesse," and then the police later find some of, let's say, Richard Grund's DNA, hypothetically. Let's say the police find some of Richard Grund's DNA on the body. He could say, "Well, we always knew they were trying we always knew they were trying to get some of Jesse's DNA. Apparently they weren't able to get any, but so they got some of mine instead." It seems like he's trying to start the legend that there's this attempt to frame somebody in his family.
Yeah, when meanwhile it seemed like all the evidence planting was going on at the other end,
Yeah. I mean, all these quasi-professionals, all these private detectives that you've never heard of before are suddenly popping up, and they're, a psychic told me to look over here, and I'm supposed to look over here for the body, and.
Okay, Timothy, we got a couple of callers who I added to the group, and one is a sponsor named Mike Gray, who is the owner of infinityhomeplans.com. Hey, Mike, you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here, Ed. How you doing?
Hey, dude. Good to talk to you, man. Hey, real quick, why don't you tell everybody about, who you are and about infinityhomeplans.com and what the website does? And
okay, well, I'm a draftsman and designer, and we design homes and we sell stock plans and do additions, for houses, do 3D work and renderings and stuff like that. And I've got a pretty good team. We're a web-based company, so we're kind of scattered. I'm in Kissimmee, Florida. My buddy Mike's in Vegas, and we got a girl named Crystal who does high-end 3D resolution and stuff like that.
And what kind of person would want to hire you?
A builder, a contractor, a builder who wants to do a spec house, or a individual homeowner who wants to build their own custom home.
Okay, great.
Basically. Or if someone wants an addition. I try to stay away from interior renovations, although Crystal does do that. She does she's really good at doing photorealistic. She's a really good interior designer. If you have a concept and you want to hire her to do photorealistic, really high-end photorealistic 3D, her work is so good you can't even tell it's computer generated. It looks like a real picture. So.
Okay, great, man. So then, do you have some questions for the guest, Timothy Holmseth?
Yeah. Is the topic? I just got it. Is the topic Caylee Anthony?
Yeah, we're talking about Caylee Anthony and a lot about HaLeigh Cummings too, which is a case that's very much connected to the Caylee Anthony case. So what do you got?
Misty Cummings. Yeah. Well, I live in Florida, Kissimmee.
Okay.
And funny enough, the lawyer's office is right down the road from me.
Which one?
When all the
Baez?
Gonzalez, yeah.
Okay.
What's his name?
Jose Baez.
Yes. Caylee Anthony's attorney. And it's right up the road from me. So when all that was going on, it was really scandalous, that whole thing with Caylee Anthony. But my take is I think she's a psychopath. I think I think she killed her daughter, whether accidentally or intentionally. That's what I think. And she put her daughter. Did you guys mention her best friend from high school did a story with the Inquirer that area where she put her daughter was a place where they hung out when they were in high school, and they called it the Zone. And they would bury their pets there, like if they had like a pet bird or a rabbit or hamster, they would hang out in that area of the woods close to the house. Yeah,
I remember that story. So Timothy, you got anything on that?
I recall all that. I heard the same stories about the about the Zone and the burying and when she was a kid and all that. And as far as Caylee being a psychopath, it's extremely hard to judge her. There does seem to be something about her that's very strange. And like I said, when I was discussing this, about what potentially happened to Caylee and who might have been involved, it does seem that at the least it seems that she would have had to have been present at some point because it seems that the child ended up in her trunk. So it seemed very almost sociopathic.
Right, and she showed no concern for the fact that anything happened to her daughter, or that her daughter was missing, or that her daughter was dead. I mean, she didn't shed a tear.
I've read some things, and I'm just not a psychologist, but from my understanding was if what Richard Grunn told me is I think that she was an incest victim, and they say that incest victims, it gets to the point where they absolutely shut off. And
yeah, I think her brother might have been in love with her or something. Because at the funeral they had a thing at the Baptist church. I don't know if you could call it a funeral. I mean, it was on TV and everything. I mean, it was bizarre. They were all. Did any of you guys see that spectacle?
Yeah. In fact, that was the same day that HaLeigh Cummings disappeared.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Michael, you missed a great show, man.
I'm sorry, you know.
Yeah, you got to listen in, man, because this is some great information here. There's a whole quick.
The whole Misty Cummings thing, that was odd too, because she said she put the baby down and then left, or she heard a commotion. That I really don't know anything about that case. All I know is those people are very odd, the whole family, and they're another group of people that hear their kid disappears, is kidnapped or whatever, and they show no tears. They have no emotion about it. It's almost like, did they sell the kid? Did they kill the kid because the kid was too much of a burden? I mean, I really don't know, but they're in jail. I mean, are they still in jail? Is Misty in jail and the boyfriend in jail and the brother all for selling meth? Still?
Yeah, they're in jail.
Yeah, well, they belong there, you know.
Yeah, I could actually show you a picture of. I bet you $100 bill that I could show you a picture right now of HaLeigh Cummings. She's like 9, 10 years old or whatever she is now.
Wait a second, guys. Wait a second. Is HaLeigh Cummings that story where they said that they were doing the custody drop-off and that they ran out the back door and that they locked the doors and then the father came over?
Yeah, I think yeah.
Oh, man, that story?
She said she put the kid, they live in a trailer somewhere in Opa-locka or somewhere in North Florida, and they put the kid in the small bed on the floor. It wasn't a bed, it was just a mattress on the floor in this room in a trailer, and she said she heard a commotion, and she went to look for the kid, and the kid was gone.
But wait a second, the father came to pick up the kid for custody, and they went and bring the kid out. Then he had called his father to come too. They had a big confrontation there. Then the mother went inside to get the baby to turn him over and came out and said, well, the baby's not here. The baby's missing.
I think so, yeah.
No, that's
different case?
This isn't the same thing.
Okay, then. We're getting all confused here.
Yeah, it's different cases. But you were talking about that memorial. And you said it was bizarre. Yeah, you're right. It's the one where Lee he's speaking in some strange code.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And then he shows his watch or something, and then he kisses it. And then he says something like, I love you. You know, I think there was maybe, he was in love with his sister, romantically.
Yeah, he said something to the effect of, I will never forget the promise I made.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I'm wondering, I'm not an expert on incest, but I mean, if what was going on, and remember, Ed, what Reverend Grun told me about the house?
Yeah.
You know, what if I don't want to get off into the paranormal, but he says that it was absolutely demonic. What if he's right? What if, you see what I mean? What was going on there? I mean, you say Caylee Anthony was a sociopath. Maybe she was. Maybe whatever had been done to her since she was a little girl, maybe there was no Caylee Anthony anymore.
Well, the whole family, it seems that they were all just practiced liars, especially the mother. You know.
Yeah, if you ever saw
the one thing that really kind of bothered me through the whole thing was why the police or the sheriff's department didn't stop all those protesters from disturbing that whole neighborhood. Because, say what you want about the Anthonys. I mean, I really don't care for them. But the fact that the police or sheriff's department would allow all those protesters in that neighborhood like that, because it was in a subdivision, you know what I mean? Where it wasn't like ordinary cars would just go through there. I mean, you had to go in there deliberately, you know what I mean? Why the sheriff's department didn't put a stop to that? I don't know. I mean, it was almost like they were punishing them.
Which is interesting too, because George was a cop. And
exactly. He was, a fellow cop. And
when you're a retired cop, you can there are few people you can still friends with, okay, that you can call up and pull some strings, no matter how badly you left the cops,
And it almost seems like it was some kind of a, I hate to say it, but like an agenda, like with the media, to make this, to rev people up. And why the prosecution? Why did they go with the first-degree murder and give her the death penalty right off the bat? That was bizarre to me. I mean, why not charge her with second-degree murder or manslaughter, or
especially when they had no cause of death, no manner of death, and with these bizarre odor experts, sniff test experts,
Yeah.
Real quick though, we have with us joined with us as well, besides Michael Gray, the president and owner of InfinityHomeplans.com. We have Christian Wallace joins us tonight. Hey, Chris, you got any questions you want to throw out there?
Sure. Since I live in Florida and I'm a social psychologist and I work in the addictions field, if I had to look at the case on the surface, ostensibly what I think happened is that Caylee Anthony was I think the family failed collectively as a whole. Before I delve into anything deeper, just on the surface of what was presented, I always thought that the family failed collectively, and sort of were all kind of responsible in a way. And the dad did have some problems afterwards. He supposedly wrote a suicide letter and felt a lot of guilt. But I always thought that the key, she also got the tattoo about the beautiful life.
Yeah.
Tattoo. The other thing was, I always thought the key to the whole thing, if I had to classify her, there's 10 major personality disorders. I'd say that she had the narcissistic one. And the way that she acted, her behavior was not consistent. The child only survived a day with her or 2 days with her. From what I understood, it was the child was living with the mother and father for the majority of the time. But the other thing that I thought was weird was that she referred to Zanny, the nanny, and Zanny's is a slang term for Xanax or Xanax bars.
Right.
So,
Xanax.
So I think what she was doing was she was giving the child probably Xanax to go to sleep, and she might have overdosed the child. The other thing that I thought was key to the whole thing was that the father, if she was a narcissists really look for the approval of other people, and the way that she played up to the cameras and stuff, they won't kill their children so much, but what'll happen is that what's consistent with it is the way that she behaved, how she played herself up for the cameras. Someone who was in a cell next to hers said that she was always preening herself in the mirror and making sure that she looked good, and she never ever talked about the child. But I think the key was who the father was, and with a narcissist, the only time they'd really reject the kid that much would be if, and I should say child, I don't like using the word kid, if it was the product of like an incestual relationship. And I always thought that was the key, whoever the father was, and why it was kept such a secret. And when she got pregnant, she hid the fact from her parents, supposedly.
And then she said that the father died in a car accident in Tampa or something like that.
Right. And she wasn't proud of the fact that she was pregnant, and her mother said, yeah, she hid it for all this time. Now, when they did an interview like a year after the fact, they both went on, I think that was Dr. Phil or something, and he separated the mother and the father. And the mother was in a lot of denial about the whole thing. The father was pretty much saying, yeah, I know my daughter did it. And they supposedly said that they had video of the Caylee going up and down the stairs to the pool, and what they said was, there was no way she would have drowned. She was real comfortable and a good swimmer. And the other thing was that I was so shocked at how much the defense conceded. They actually said that, yes, she was there. They placed her at the scene, at the death. They said that she drowned. They said she was right there. It happened immediately. And the only thing that they threw as a curveball to kind of, as the whole crux of their defense was that the father was there too. And he said, look what you did. Now everyone's going to hate you. And, he scared her. And then they buried the body, in a pet cemetery, just a few miles down the road.
The whole you're saying the whole family?
No. I'm saying the defense's, what they conceded was so amazing because the prosecution didn't put this forward. What I'm saying is what they entered into on the record was, they gave so much. I mean, they actually said, yes, she was there. And yes, she was, she was holding the body of her daughter who drowned, and she covered it up. But the reason she did was because her father had abused her whole life, and she freaked out, and he scared her, and he said, you're going to go to jail for the rest of your life. How could you be so stupid? And she freaked out. And then that was the best plan that the two of them could come up with. You know what I mean? I just couldn't believe how much the defense, that was Jose Baez's best defense for her, was to actually put her at the scene, say, yeah, she was there, but it was an accident. And her dad scared her into burying the kid in the pet cemetery or wherever it was down the street. I thought her case was so flimsy. Her defense was so flimsy that was the best they could come up with.
Just a side thing. The local media down here, I don't know if you guys watched it, they were kind of inferring that they kept saying whenever Caylee Anthony would go to his office and have meetings, they would go, they'd be in there for hours. What are they doing in there? Almost inferring, that they were having a tawdry affair.
Right.
And not only that, but when he would go to visit her in the prison, he was reprimanded for, touching her inappropriately by the judge. So, you know what I mean?
There was definitely a lot of weird stuff going on and a lot of inappropriate and a lot of strange behavior on everybody's part. There was something that just wasn't passing the test with it. And I wasn't saying that there wasn't more to it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying on the surface of what was presented, you know what I mean? Nothing seemed to jive. It just, there was some.
Well, the whole thing was that, the last time the mother or anyone saw the daughter was they got into a fight because Caylee Anthony's, the grandmother that was in a nursing home, wrote Caylee, before this happened, wrote her a birthday check for like $20, I don't know what the amount was. Mm-hmm. And she got a hold of the bank numbers and drained that account of $25,000 for the grandmother's savings, and she was in a nursing home. And the mother found out and went to confront her in the house and actually tried to strangle her or, put her hands around her throat and was choking her.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Hey, Timothy, what do you have on that? I heard that as well, and from a lot of people, that there was a fight at the house that night, the last night that Caylee was seen alive. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay, well, do you have any information on that?
The mother was so furious at her because she drained her mother's account. Her grandmother's account was in the nursing home of like $25,000. She confronted her at the house, put her hands around her to choke her, and then she grabbed the kid and said, "I'm out of here." And that was the last time anyone saw the little girl. That the mother and father saw the little girl. And then it was 30 days later. She said, "I want to see the." Huh? Unless
the fight was about something else. Because do we know for a fact that this bank account was drained of any money? It wasn't presented as an exhibit in court.
Well, what happened? Well, that's what I heard because the grandmother wanted to press charges against the Caylee. And also remember she borrowed her friend's car because her friend supposedly her best friend, and she lent her car, and the friend left her checkbook in the car, and then she drained her checkbook of $600 and went to Target and have her in Target buying cases of beer So, she's just, huh?
Yeah, that's a fact. Casey was going around, she was stealing money from people, theft by check, yeah.
Yeah, left and right. She was just a thief.
Well, yeah, that's common.
But I was amazed that, look at how many people this girl, she destroyed so many lives. Like the cop that, you could say Ray Kroc's life was destroyed. The cop who went and looked at that area because he got a tip and said he found nothing, he got fired. Look at how many people, this one girl, she just destroyed a lot of lives, including her daughters, who she, I think, killed,
Yeah, but that's the thing. See, you really should have listened to the whole show, man. There's a lot of information out here that it's not just this one girl, And it's hard to really summarize the whole thing in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, Ed, can I just say something real quick?
Yeah, shoot.
To Timothy, that was a really good interview. I'm not dismissing anything, Timothy. I just was saying that on the surface story, what they presented was, if what they were trying to make it look like, at the very least, ostensibly, was that, this girl was a prolific liar and, a sloppy murder that got away with a perfect murder.
I wouldn't say she's a perfect liar because, I mean, she when the mother finally called 911, she was telling the people she was living with, she was telling her boyfriend, the kid's with my parents. And she was telling the parents the kid is with me, right? So she was playing this punt game, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then when finally the mother said, I'm coming there 30 days later. I haven't seen my grandchild in 30 days. I want to see her. I'm coming there right now. And she goes over there and is like, well, where is she? And she's like, she's with Zanny, the nanny. Zanny kidnapped her. And that's when she called the police. When the police get her and interrogate her, she says, she's with Zanny, and then she takes him to Universal. She says, I work at Universal Studio. Takes him to Universal Studio, and she doesn't even work there.
Right.
And the police knew already she didn't work there, and how did she think she was going to get away with all that?
Yeah, she's a lost kid, man. She's a lost kid way over her head, and there's no way she planned all this and got away with it on her own. There was another manager over this, and who's the most likely guy who has the experience to deal with a police investigation, who's making police reports to cover his own self. You do that kind of stuff. You make a police report to cover up, hey, this gas can's missing, blah, blah, blah. Someone broke into my shed. You know to do that kind of stuff when you're a cop and you're a seasoned cop, And again, too, Christian, I forget who it was who said, why didn't he call in and do something about the protests in front of his house? That's a good question, too, man, because that's a pretty easy thing to do, to call in and get that to be stopped.
Well, what I'm saying is the police for whatever reason,
right?
The police, the sheriff's department decided not to. And I always thought, I couldn't figure out why, because this thing was on the news all the time. I mean, it was getting nauseating to the point where it was becoming a spectacle in a circus. But I kept saying, well, why are the police allowing these protesters in that neighborhood? Because even the neighbors that live there were complaining, and they had nothing to do with this. You know what I mean? It was affecting them.
It was a huge show trial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
And they did have fights for people that wanted to get in, to have seats to get in. And somebody got arrested or held in contempt of court for making faces or something in the crowd. It was a really big, just a big show. And tensions were running real high. And it was, it was ad nauseum, just running. And people really, they hated this girl. But I really think no matter what avenue anyone wants to go down with it, if you want to get real conspiratorial with it, you can. I think the key, though, no matter what avenue you take, the surface story, whatever, the prosecution put forward, whoever, I think the key is who the father of the child was. I think that's the key to the case, because it just got, glossed over.
Why did she, what's funny is, too, she supposedly called right after she supposedly killed the kid or accidentally killed the kid, however it happened. There was a Marine or someone in the military in Arizona that she called, and they tried did anyone ever find out who this guy was?
Tim?
I'm not sure about that one. I've heard something about that, but I'm not sure about that one.
It's like she was desperate to call this guy who's supposedly out in the West, in I think Arizona, and he was in the military. He was like a Marine. And she was like, I got to get a hold of this guy. And she was desperate to get a hold of him, and it just kind of ended there. Like, what did he have anything to do with it? But the other funny thing is that she before it all came out, in that 30 days, she went to see her old boyfriend that she was going to marry, and she asked to go into. She said, "Oh, I have to." She made some excuse to go into his bathroom, and I can't remember his name.
Grund.
But Grund, right. Yeah,
okay, that's what the whole show is about, dude.
And he said,
yeah,
he went in there. She went in there to get DNA, like look for a Q-tip or something, because when the bounty hunter, who was that bounty hunter that got her bailed out?
The other one, Leonard Padilla.
Yeah, Padilla. When he got her bailed out and he was having dinner in the house, the whole family was like saying, how can we pin this on Grund? That was what the whole dinner was about. Not how are we going to find the daughter. It was all about how can we pin this on the boyfriend, Grund, that he somehow did it.
Okay, Mike, when you listen to the whole show, right, you're going to laugh because this is pretty much what the whole show was about. It's about this whole story about Grund and his father, who's this reverend, and how Timothy's theory is that this whole Grund thing is the whole HaLeigh Cummings thing was a whole charade to draw attention away from, and the father claiming that Grund, can you explain it, Timothy? Go ahead.
Are you serious? They're going to blame this guy Grund and his son?
Well, Reverend Grund inserted himself into the HaLeigh Cummings disappearance.
Yeah, did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
He absolutely 100% inserted himself into a second missing child case by securing the services of a bounty hunter named Cobra Stobbs, and he sent this bounty hunter into the HaLeigh Cummings case, and all the bounty hunter did the whole time he was there was tried to frame an accused child molester for a non-existent kidnapping of HaLeigh Cummings until the bounty hunter finally got arrested for felony false imprisonment. And I mean, this isn't me. You don't have to rely on me. This was all stated by Cobra Stobbs to the mainstream media. He kept telling news reporters, I was sent here by Reverend Richard Grund, the father of Jesse Grund. Reverend Grund inserted himself into the HaLeigh Cummings case while he was on the prosecution and defense witnesses list in another missing child case. Why was he doing that?
I don't know.
I mean, it's a rhetorical question, of course, but...
Right. But Michael, too, there's a lot of other weird stuff, too, as well. Like the first judge that recused himself was actually, the reason why was because he was chatting on a website with one of these guys in this group over there, with the HaLeigh Cummings group.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
they were planting evidence and stuff, man. And Timothy has tapes of all this. You should have listened to the show, man. It's a lot of stuff here.
Well, in fact, I mean, there's something to be said about the fact that I was interviewed myself by the FBI in 2010. They contacted me because of the people that I interviewed, and they called me up and they said, "We need to talk to you." And they interviewed me, and then they asked me for a bunch of my recordings because of the people that I had interviewed, and one of those people was Grund.
So your take is, do you think that the son is, I mean, what are you basically saying? You're saying that the Grunds are somehow involved in the daughter's murder?
No, actually what you got to take a look at is it's not Jesse Grund. It's the dad, Reverend Richard Grund, the grandfather. He runs. I'll just walk through it again quick. Reverend Richard Grund runs a paranormal service called the Supernatural Response Team. You can look it up. You can just Google it. Supernatural Response Team.
Okay.
That's what he does. He's a minister, and he used to be a Satanist. He told me all this during interviews.
Oh,
and
he used really?
Yeah, he used to be, and he told me that he had an encounter with a fallen watcher, and that's a demon from, extra-dimensional stuff. And he told me that he was at the Anthony home, and he told me that that the house was demon-possessed. And he said, I leaned over to my wife and I said, hold on, let's see if they know if I'm here or not, referring to the demons. And he said that the demons did know he was there. They became extremely angry. And then he said stuff started flying off a shelf by itself. And then he also told me that he said the Caylee Anthony that everybody's seeing on TV is not the real Caylee Anthony. He said the Caylee Anthony that everybody's seeing on TV is possessed by a demon that used to be worshipped on this earth as a god. And then, so now you have that.
It's funny that Jesse Grund said on TV that Caylee now was demonic. He actually said that.
Okay. I didn't know that, but that's interesting. So, there you go.
He said that her personality, she changed, and now he said if I had to put a word for it, he actually said the word demonic. That her personality now was like demonic. He actually, the kid said that.
Okay, now remember, in October of 2009, the National Enquirer ran a story that said that the Anthony family had hired a private investigator, and they found these files in the Orange County prosecutor's files that the Anthony family had hired a private investigator because they suspected that possibly Caylee Anthony had died during a ritual sacrifice performed by Richard Grund. Now, when I interviewed Wayanne Kruger, who was working with Grund, Wayanne said to me, I hope HaLeigh, referring to HaLeigh Cummings, he said, I hope HaLeigh didn't die in one of Grund's frickin' exorcisms. She sounded like she saw something once. And what I'm getting at is, and when you listen to Grund's interviews with the detectives, they're on YouTube, so you can go listen to them. He doesn't tell the detectives what he told me. He doesn't tell them about the stuff flying around the house. He doesn't tell them that the house was possessed. And he doesn't tell them that Caylee is possessed by a demon that used to be worshipped as a god on this earth. That's kind of significant when you've got a child that's missing, especially when the child later is found and it appears that she had duct tape over her mouth.
Well, then how can you believe anything he says if,
It's true. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, then what is the next move he makes? Well, they find Caylee's body on December 11, 2008, and then on February 10th, HaLeigh Cummings magically disappears on the same day as a memorial, and then he just suddenly meets this Cobra Stubbs, the bounty hunter, and then Cobra goes up to where HaLeigh Cummings disappeared from, and he starts trying to set up this guy, this accused child molester. He's setting up all these scenarios, like he's trying to set up this whole new case, so it looks like this child killer's been running around the state. That's what he was doing. He's trying to explain everything away. He's going to explain what happened to both little girls. Daniel Snodgrass was their fall guy. He was going to explain what happened to both little girls. That's what he was doing. And Cobra was working for Richard Grund. So, to me, the question is, why was Richard Grund doing that? Because he was so innocent? If something happened to Caylee, maybe Caylee was there. Maybe they were all there. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was what Leanne said. A frickin' exorcism. That's how she said it.
What? An exorcist on the kid? I mean,
yeah. Maybe an exorcism was being performed on this poor little girl, and she died. And then they're like, "Oh shit! Now what do we do? How do we explain this to the police? How do we explain this beautiful little 2-year-old girl's dead?" So what do? They all get together and they make up this story about drowning in the pool.
Can I jump in and say something real quick that might be not?
Yeah, jump, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My wife is pregnant right now. As a matter of fact, and she just noticed it when we were. It's funny because we actually went back and looked at this case a couple weeks ago. It's one of these cases that sticks, in you. It's just so bizarre. It's a very primal case because it's a mother and the little girl's so cute But she noticed when they were showing the pictures of the two of them, Casey's always looking at the camera. The daughter is always looking at her. She's never, ever looking at her daughter in any of the pictures. It's so odd.
And when she does, it's always a fake smile. Caylee Anthony has this fixed fake smile.
Yeah, and there's times when she got angry in the courtroom, and you saw that other, the facade dropped. And, the demon in her came out. I mean, for lack of a better word, she got angry a couple of times when, I think it was someone on her defense team or something wasn't, saying or doing something that she wanted them to do. And she had a few little, mini outbursts, not yelling or anything, but just kind of, baring her fangs. She had a few little, angry spells, there's just something off with the girl. And, but like I said, collectively as a family, there's something odd about the whole thing. So,
well, what about the mom? What about when they checked the computer that, she had looked up chloroform and neck breaking and, stuff like that. And then the mother said, oh, she looked up, not chloroform. She had misspelled
chlorophyll.
Yeah, she said that her dog, I think she had a Yorkshire Terrier or something, and it had eaten one of the plants, and she wanted to make sure that it wasn't poisoned. And that was her excuse or something. And
then she lied and said that her supervisor would frequently punch her in and punch her out. Clock in, clock out. Mm-hmm. And anyone knows. Well, I mean, I've worked in places where you're not allowed to do that. And they tell you,
can I just add one thing? Maybe the chloroform was used in the exorcism that Mr. Holmseth is talking about. And by the way, too, let me tell you something. When this thing came out about 84 searches for chloroform, everyone in my business knew that was complete BS. And no one sits at their computer and searches 84 times in a row. And everyone knew that was a computer glitch. The digital forensic investigators on the prosecution knew that was a glitch and knew that was false. I can't go into the depth of what I could tell you that how everyone who was watching that knew it was complete crap. And you had Nancy Grace going on night after night after night repeating that when everyone knew it had to be complete garbage. And then even the owners of the software, the cashback software, came out and issued a press release and said, no, this is a mistake. So all that stuff, man, I would take all that computer evidence and throw it out the window. It's all, at this point, garbage.
Yeah, Nancy Grace was so biased, too. And
Top mom.
You guys should do a whole show on that guy, that Knife-On guy.
Who's Knife-On?
Knife-On, the prosecutor who went after the lacrosse team for the rape allegations, and how no matter what he just went through, and then he actually did a day in jail. And I think he lost his law license.
Well, so did Nancy Grace,
Yeah, I got a video of her, Ed, that I'll send you of when she was, how unscrupulous in her old behavior when she was young, and how she admittedly, would play up this sweet Southern Belle routine, and all these dramatic
man,
courtroom.
She is the devil.
Good Lord.
She's a wicked person. That's what we say.
I don't go that far. Okay, we're still trying to.
I got to send you that video. And she was just laughing about how she's like, I play up this routine in court. And they're like, any other, prosecutor would be ashamed to behave the way that she does, in the courtroom. And, she's just a phony just all the way around. But that's, just some this additional stuff. But the thing that I think is important with this case is that why was the little girl's mouth taped?
And a heart and a kiss, a kiss thing put over it, right? Somebody's
that's garbage. That little sticker, that residue of a sticker on there. That's no real. You see, that's not real evidence, man. And there's so much garbage evidence in this trial. It's unbelievable, man. But that was some kind of a sticky residue on there in the shape of a star.
Let me just say one thing. Everyone wants to say, well, how did she die? Was she suffocated? What does it matter? She's dead.
No, dude, I know, but
I mean, the point is though, she was buried in the yard in the woods somewhere with tape around her mouth, and I mean, it's like, somebody did that.
Yeah, right. But in order to get a criminal prosecution, you need a cause of death and a manner of death. It's basic. Otherwise, we don't know how she died.
Wait, if we went out to dinner and then the next thing, 30 days later, you're in my backyard dead, buried in my backyard, and there's no one knows how you died, but you're dead, and you're in my backyard, doesn't that mean I did something to you?
No, because it could be your neighbor did it. Who knows who did it? You don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. The way I still think.
No, Mike, she looks bad. On TV, she looks like a horrible person, like an evil, and she was demonized from day one in this thing. Top mom, over and over every night. By this satanic Nancy Grace, but the thing, and I'd say that,
She actually yelled at the poor well, I don't know how innocent she was, but she caused some girl to go kill herself.
Yeah, no, look up Nancy Grace's Wikipedia page. I don't want to get into a war with Nancy Grace, okay? God bless her for what she's doing. But the thing is, we need laws in this country, and you need to surpass the burden of proof, of someone's guilt.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that, yeah.
And in this trial, it's not even close, man. Forget that.
Ed, I think the key word here, is, scrutiny, because, so many people think they know so much about this case.
Right.
Based upon the media, but the media was scrutinizing Caylee Anthony. But let's just say hypothetically, perhaps somebody placed that amount of scrutiny on Reverend Richard Grunt. You know what? The public would come to the same conclusion. They'd be ready to hang him from a light pole. And that wouldn't be fair either,
Well, any trial, even Jodi Arias, when you have night after night after night, one single narrative where they're saying this person's guilty, and not only are they guilty of this, let's hold a mock trial, and they're guilty of being evil. They're guilty of being a sociopath. They're guilty of doing this. And every night this mock jury convicts this person over and over and over again.
That's the most disturbing thing I've ever seen in my life on CNN, where they have these those.
HLN.
Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, what is going on here? I mean, this is bizarre. And I thought it was just me, but to see a mock trial and, well, did she do it or not?
Yeah, no. And to convict somebody guilty while there's a trial going on.
Right.
And now we have these situations like with Jodi Arias again, where witnesses, professional expert witnesses, forensic experts are coming on there to testify, and people are looking up their background and digging up dirt on them and threatening them, like that woman, LaValliolette, who was the domestic violence expert, and people are threatening her that she's afraid to come back, and testify again, what we have here this is a really dangerous situation for anybody who's caught up.
Well, that's why the cameras. I think there should be a law that no cameras should be in the courtroom.
No, the other way around. We got to see everything that's going on in every courtroom. Thank God we have cameras in courtrooms. Are you kidding me? Stuff that goes on. But the thing is, we need a media. Tell them about this guy Hash, Timothy.
Dr. Mark Hash?
Yeah.
Well, this is just an unbelievable story. This guy, boy, where do I start with this? He's got a lawsuit filed against the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and a lawsuit filed against the Tallahassee Police Department. They charged him he was charged on this pill mill thing, but it was a bogus charge, and he's got a list as long as my arm. I believe, because I have a copy of a list of all these government officials who had been purchasing these drugs. And they're all government officials who were illegally purchasing drugs. So they tried to arrest him. Well, it was a bogus charge, and they had to drop it. So he sued the FDLE and the Tallahassee Police Department. So what they did was he'd been raising his two boys for over 10 years. So what they did was they contacted his son's mother, and they started a family court action to take his child. One of his kids was a minor, so they started a court action, this totally bogus action to take his child away from him, and the whole thing's fraudulent. And they've got a pickup. So what his kid did was his child took off from Missouri and got married because he could do that. And he was an emancipated adult. And the judge ignored the fact that he was emancipated because he had changed the custody so they could put the child in the custody of in the custody of the mother because he's a witness against the state, you see? But so anyway, I'm trying to not lose my place here.
How old was this kid? How old was this kid that's married?
He was 16, but he legally got married in Missouri. So he was an emancipated adult, and since then he's got legal emancipation papers from a judge in Georgia. But this judge in Florida will not lift this pickup order for him. It's like a warrant, and he's hiding because if they can get him into police custody, they're going to declare him a ward of the state. They're going to say he has a mental problem. They're going to do something so he can't.
The kid's an Eagle Scout.
Yeah, he's an Eagle Scout. Kid never did anything wrong. Not only that, when the kid took off and hid, because they knew the plan, he'd been in the custody of his father for 10 years. His mother has borderline personality disorder. I've read all of her psych reports. I have everything. The woman's crazy. She pulled guns on this kid. I mean, I've read all the reports from the doctors, the psychologists, all the professionals say these kids cannot be around their mother. She's dangerous. And yet the judge reversed 10 years of court orders and stuff and just said she's going to put the child in the custody of their mother. It's a strategic thing to take the child away from him so they can make the child a ward of the state, say has a mental problem, so he can't testify in this court hearing. So the kid took off and hid. So what the judge did was found the child's father in contempt of court. 2 times they put the father in jail, that this judge did, and said, we're not going to let you out of jail till your son turns himself into law enforcement. Well, the Florida District Court of Appeals, let the father out of jail because that's illegal. You can't do that. There's no law like that. And there's no 2 congressmen, this is all on my website, there's now 2 congressmen that have sent letters to the Department of Justice requesting an investigation of this judge. It's like they're trying to human traffic this kid.
Well, and you talk about a 16-year-old kid, 17-year-old kid who's an Eagle Scout. Okay, you really got to look into what it takes to become an Eagle Scout. people that are Eagle Scouts go on to become senators and astronauts, and, like really, it's serious. It's a serious path in life to make it to Eagle Scout. You have to actually do a community service kind of thing. Cindy Sheehan was on the show and she talked about her son did a thing where they planted like 1,000 trees, So it's like it's a big deal to be an Eagle Scout and something to be respected and to consider a kid's maturity, to become an Eagle Scout.
And that's the kind of father that's the kind of father he is. Dr. Mark Hash, both of his sons, they're both Eagle Scouts.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And he had raised them for like 10 years. They had been taken away from their mother over a decade ago. I have all of the court records. I have all of the psych ward records. Like, we're back in like 2005. The psychiatrist said you need to get a gun safe. She was pulling guns. She was pulling guns on the family and stuff.
Wow.
Yet this judge just arbitrarily. Yeah, I mean, this is just totally criminal.
Hey, can I?
Yep.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Sure.
The guy who's talking. Do you put up YouTube videos about satanic stuff like the Hoover Dam being blown up? Is that you?
No.
Okay, because your voice sounds just like his. I'm sorry.
No, not me.
Okay, sorry. Never mind.
No problem. No. Well, I think all my videos, my name is always, it'll, at the beginning, my name will be on it. The Alec Thomas Hatch case is, the sad thing is that the only reason that this judge isn't getting away with this is because the father is who he is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parents that just don't have what he had. This is a special breed kind of guy.
Yeah, there's so many parents that hooked up, like you were talking about before, about how these families down in Florida, someone would knock on their door and say they're from CPS, then give me the kids, take them away, and they don't even know what's going on, and some kind of fake CPS agents. The same thing happens in these courts here, where people just get run over by out-of-control judges, and when one side has the legal advantage of having a lot of money to hire lawyers who are politically corrupt in with these judges, and it takes a battle. And the fight of my life was fighting for custody for my daughter back in 2005. And, thank God we won that fight. We're back in it now, 7 years later. But that's just the way it is, These courts are out of control, because it's such a corrupt system.
And there's a lot of money to be made. And the family court system is very corruptible. Because people will give up everything they have to fight for their children.
Yeah.
And they know in the Alec Hash case, they know if they could get if they could get this kid into police custody, you know what they're going to do? They're going to take him in a room. Because all they got to do is be alone with him for 15 minutes. They don't have to even do anything to him. They just have to be alone with him, and then they're going to come out and they're going to say, yeah, Alec told us ABC.
Yeah.
He told us that his dad abuses him, and his dad forced him to say this and that. And they'll just make up a fake police report, and they'll say, that same judge will declare that he has mental issues and blah, blah, blah. And then the lawsuit will be tainted. You see what I mean? All they got to do is get him. So he's been hiding for over 400 days.
With his wife? With his wife?
No, his wife actually isn't with him, no. And they had him, I played a significant role in it because I keep publishing on it. But they had Alec in the NCIC. They finally took him out of it because it was bogus. NCIC finally, I wrote the Leon County Sheriff's Office. I stayed on them, and they finally had to admit that Alec was not a runaway because he was emancipated. I got that in writing, So the National Center for Missing Children finally they took his Amber Alert down, so the whole sham crumbled. They took his Amber Alert down because they had to admit he wasn't a runaway. They took him out of the NCIC. Everything crumbled, but the judge will not take that. It's called a pick-up order for a juvenile. She won't lift it. So the police, technically, he's not in the NCIC, but if they send some mercenary or private investigator, somebody snatches this kid or calls the cop and says, well, we know there's a pickup order for him in Leon County, they'll still put him in a jail. Because there's still an order for him signed by a judge. She refuses to lift it, and she knows it's illegal. But he has a high-end lawyer right now, and there's some big stuff going to happen on the first.
Just a question now. There's a pickup order on the kid.
Yeah.
Okay, but now, but if it's out of state, would it be? Would this cop still pick him up? Because is it that value of there's like a warrant and there's a bail amount and it's worth it to extradite the kid. So if they picked him up out of state, would they hold him still?
I don't know. I think that would be up to I don't know if they would or not.
Okay.
He's not in the NCIC. And I think he's out of state.
Then forget it. Then he's not going to turn up out of state. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's hiding. I mean, he's not in Florida.
Okay.
And meanwhile, this poor kid's life is on hold.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Till he turns 18.
Yeah, he should be in 12th grade. He can't go to school. He can't go to school. This judge is just ruining his life. They know the plan. The plan is to have him declared mentally ill. These people are sick.
Yeah. Well, if you believe in the Second Amendment, you're mentally ill.
Yeah, I mean,
the government's gonna label us all mentally ill.
That's the plan. Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're trying to arrange it. So yeah, and then you can't have a gun.
Right. One way or the other, we're all going to be labeled mentally ill,
And then they'll be able to incarcerate you at will. You can't have a firearm. That's the type of power they're seeking.
So, Timothy, you think you can get that father, the doctor, to come on our show sometime?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's plan something on that for the future. Okay, and we'll come back here when we'll reconvene. But what I'd like to do now is to wrap up the show here. It's been going on good hour and 15 minutes over the regular broadcast. So we've had Timothy Charles Holmseth, the author of Regarding Caylee Anthony, The Shocking Truth Explained. Both of his books are available on my blog, the Opperman Report. And you can find him on there. I want to thank my sponsors, Pacific West Bamboo, and also, too, InfinityHomePlans.com. Mike Gray, who was on the show tonight.
Hi, I'm Mike Gray. How you doing?
There you go. Hey, finally, the audience gets to meet you, bro. Okay, and which is a good thing for you because you want them to,
Ed, I love the show. I think your shows are great, man.
Thank you. I love the sponsors. Okay, don't forget.
I'll try to get you some more, cash.
All right, there you go, bro. Hey, now I'll talk to you later because we got a big thing going on. But also, too, Mike Gray, you got to listen to the whole show. I think you'll be fascinated if you listen to the rebroadcast. I know you like to listen to the rebroadcast. My daughter Victoria, tomorrow, she has a show debuting called Teen Truth. It's on cjmarsradio.com. You know what? Cindy Jean-Pierre. Cindy, do you have anything you want to add tonight? Thank you, Cindy. We love having you. We always rebroadcast. We simulcast on cjmarsradio.com, and then she covers the after shows live, and she's hosting my daughter tomorrow, and she helped my daughter out with the set up the promos and stuff like that. So what I'd like to do then is let our guest Timothy Holmseth just what do you want to leave us with, brother?
Well, I want to thank you, Ed, for bringing me on the Opperman Report. It's been an absolute pleasure. You got an excellent program, and I'm really rooting for Victoria and Teen Truth. That is cool, man. I'm rooting for that. Sounds like an awesome deal. I'm going to talk to Dr. Mark Hash and get on there because that story's going to blow you away. I really appreciate you bringing me on the Opperman Report.
You got it, bro. Hey, Chris, you got anything you want to say?
Good show, guys. Absolutely. Yeah, as always, really, really good.
All right, guys. Good night. Next week we have, I think it's Adam Gorightly. It was a fascinating guy. Well, he's all kind of Charles Manson stuff like that and process church stuff. He's into all the same stuff we're into. So we have him coming on next week. And then we got May Pang coming up, of course. Oh, by the way, hey, I want to welcome everybody, too, who I was on Reverend Bob Levy on Monday last week on Ears Wide Open Radio. Reverend Bob,
the comedian?
Yeah, from the Howard Stern show. Yeah,
he's crazy.
I know. We grew up in the same neighborhood, man. Me and him grew up in the same town in Staten Island, and we know the same people. So I went on his show on Monday promoting my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator. And ever since then, man, I tell you, I've gotten so much response from that. We had so much fun, and people just emailing me and calling up and stuff like that. And it was really cool. So I want to welcome all those people that met me on the Reverend Bob Levy show and following us now here to the Opperman Report. So, okay, everybody, good night. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Mike Gray, Christian Wallace, Timothy Holmseth, and Ann, my beautiful producer, and Cindy Jean-Pierre. And we'll be seeing you guys next week, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on freedomslips.com and cjmarsradio.com. Good night.